Hi Dandelions, sorry it's been a little bit of a while since I uploaded anything. I've been getting loads of other stuff done. I've just finished writing my self-study diploma in spiritual counselling and been working on a few other projects as well that are in the works. So I've been away from the YouTube community for a while and I have loads and loads of videos to catch up on. There is so much stuff on my feed that I cannot wait to get my teeth into. So I'm excited to do that and I'm excited to be back. And I got my Joanna DeVoe t-shirt today in case anyone didn't notice, and I'm really happy with it. I love it to pieces. So thank you Joanna for the amazing artwork, and thank you to Redbubble for sending me this lovely organic t-shirt. It's lovely, it fits really nicely, so I'm really impressed with it. And I thought it was really appropriate that I was wearing the Joanna DeVoe t-shirt for tonight's video because I was thinking about something that she said this morning when I woke up. I've had a really rough couple of weeks. I don't know if this is something that's going around and is kind of like a common theme amongst other witches, but I have been feeling really shitty, really drained. I just have so much going on in my head, and this morning I woke up and I really did not want to face the world. It was like the last thing that I wanted to do. I just wanted to put the covers back over my head and go back into the dream state. And then something that Joanna DeVoe said popped into my head, and I might be misquoting here because I'm kind of paraphrasing, but I'm sure that in a video she said that to her the word witch means a woman who gets shit done. You know, a witch is a bitch who gets shit done. And it made me think about how important it is that we don't leave our power in the circle, that we allow our power and our energy and our inner knowledge of how energy can manifest into the outside world to permeate into all aspects of our lives, you know, and to permeate who we are as human beings as well. And that's something that I've been guilty of feeling unable to do at certain times. And sometimes when I think about how important it is to get shit done and to not leave my power in the circle, but actually to allow it to manifest into other aspects of my life, it really is what keeps me going, and it really is what pushes me to that next level and encourages me to take that next step. So that was something that I wanted to talk about today, just the importance of knowing that if there's some shit that you need to get done, if there's something that you need to face, if there's something that you've been running away from, whether it's cleaning the house or some emotional crap that you need to get into and rifle through so you can get to the other side of it, don't leave your power in the circle. You know, think about the incredibly empowered being that you are when you are doing your ritual workings, or when you're going through the motions of daily practice, or when you're learning about the new kind of intricate, complex areas of your spirituality that you haven't been used to, and you're learning for the first time, and you're studying and you're putting that energy into it. Think about those times where your energy is strongest, where your spiritual energy most empowers and defines you, where you feel it surging through your veins, you know. And I think for a lot of us it will be when we're in the circle, you know, when we are doing offerings or when we're celebrating any point of the Wheel of the Year. We feel that absolute surge of energy come upon us. We kind of manifest it, we conjure it up, and we use it and we feel it, and it's riveting, and it's something that really makes us who we are. And yet so often we leave that power inside the circle, and when we come out of the ritual mindset and when we close our circle, it's not there for us in those daily shitty little bits of life where we really need it to be there for us, and we really need to be present in those moments, and we need to bring whatever power we can bring to bear on those situations. And that's something that, you know, I sometimes do lose sight of, and I think I lose touch with. So I think it's really nice to be able to think about that, and also to think about the importance of, okay, this is something that might seem a little strange, but I think that there's been such a backlash against the idea of positive thinking, because so often when we are immersed in the idea of thinking positively and doing our affirmations and so on, we can feel when things don't go our way or when things don't pan out as we expected that positive thinking has failed, that it's failed us, that it didn't work for us, that we put everything that we could put into it, and still it didn't come out as we wanted it to. Still, our will was not made manifest, and that can be disappointing, and it can make us think, well, fuck positive thinking. And then we slide into negative thinking. And then it's that constant battle between, you know, being immersed in feeling negative and then trying to pull ourselves out of it and make ourselves feel that positivity again. When really, if we were completely honest with ourselves, it's clear that thinking positively about a situation and putting positive thoughts into a situation isn't always going to bring to bear a positive or desirable result. That's life, that's the way life is. And I think a lot of people feel that if they employ these positive thinking techniques, and if they do everything that they are told that they need to do through countless videos and books and how-tos and 5 steps to enlightenment and 5 steps to contentment, and it's all about positive thinking and about, putting your positive thoughts and energy out there, we often feel like if we do that, it's going to end up gleaning a positive result for us. And when that doesn't work, we can feel bitter or resentful, or wondering if we did something wrong, wondering if we are not the spiritual being that we should be, and that's why things have gone wrong. And that's something that I hear from querents from time to time as well when I'm doing my tarot thing. And it makes me feel really sad, because often what we don't remember is that it's not just a straight up choice between positive thinking and negative thinking. We need to think less in terms of positivity and more in terms of possibility, because that's where the key is. If you're trying to do something and you're thinking negatively about it, and you're thinking, I'm not going to be able to do this, I'm not strong enough to do this, I'm not intelligent enough to do this, I'm not good enough to do this, that's no guarantee that you're not going to do it. You could think negatively about it and think negatively about your ability to succeed in it for days and days and days, and still get an A, or still pass, or, still succeed, even though you were immersed in negative thinking. The same is true of positive thinking. If we think positively about something day after day, and we do our affirmations and we do our visualizations and we try and fill ourselves with this white light, does it 100% guarantee that we will get the desired outcome? No, it doesn't, It doesn't. It won't happen every time. So when we think about employing positive thinking techniques in terms of succeeding at something, or in terms of getting a desired outcome, of course sometimes there's going to be disappointment, because it's not always going to work out as we wanted it to. Whereas thinking in terms of what's possible is always going to glean some kind of forward motion. It's always going to encourage and motivate you. Instead of thinking, this is definitely going to happen, this is definitely going to happen, my visualization or manifestation, affirmation, is going to make this manifest. Sometimes when it doesn't work out because life has a different plan for us, or there was still a lesson that we had to learn and things are going to be hard for a little while longer, we can feel that resentment. Whereas if we think in terms of what's possible, if we think, okay, there is a possibility that I could fail at this, but there is a possibility that I could succeed at this. It's always possible that the outcome will be good. It's always possible that I will prove to myself that I was even more intelligent than I thought I was, or I was even more capable of doing this than I thought I was. Then there's always that feeling of going into the new and enjoying the unexplored and enjoying our own personal power. It's not so much about thinking 100% yes, it's going to happen, and when it doesn't happen we break down and cry and think, what the hell did I do wrong? Instead, we are not focusing on that positive final end point as though it's definitely going to manifest. We're simply open to the possibility that it could manifest, and that's what makes us go on with it. That's what makes us push through with it. That's how I've started thinking. Because I think there's been a backlash against this whole positive thinking culture, because it's considered to be like the be all and end all of getting what you want, getting your way, getting things to manifest in the way that you desire. When in reality, if you look at the Wheel of Fortune in tarot, for example, which is a card that I often posit as a prime example of the way that positivity doesn't always manifest in the way we want to, or doesn't show up at the time that we desire it to. If you look at that kind of card, it basically asks you to think more about possibility than it does about positivity. You can be as negative as you want about something and you can still get an A+ in it. You can be as positive as you want about something and it still won't come to pass. But if you always think in terms of the fact that it is possible, that if you try, then it is possible to have that thing that you want, then I think that kind of promotes a healthier way of looking at things. And I think that's especially true in spirituality. When we're trying to forge forward into the next stage, when we're trying to get to that next level, thinking about possibility rather than thinking about positivity is sometimes the key. Because it drives us in a much more real way. It's honest, it's realistic, it's down to earth, hey, it might not happen, but it's possible. It's possible that it might happen. And it's that possibility that keeps me going, because you can't deny that something that you want is possible. It would be very hard to. Whereas I think, I don't know, positive and negative sometimes lend themselves to a very vicious cycle. And I think if you can look at all of the positive thinking techniques and really go forth in that way and it feels healthy for you, then that's great. But for a lot of people, and I think it's largely the people that talk about like the love and light crap, or, you know, people don't give enough real talk. They're always talking about fluffy love and light bullshit. I get where those people are coming from in a sense. It's not the way that I talk, and I do get a lot from people that are very about love and light and oneness and you know, just pushing forward in a positive way, in a way that's true to you, and that's kind of how I like to see the world. But I do understand where that whole love and light is bullshit camp are coming from. I think they've been burned by this seductive power of positive thinking. They've been burned by the idea that if they employ positive thinking techniques, everything's going to go correctly, everything's going to go as they desired, and when that doesn't come to pass, they feel like all this positive thinking stuff is bullshit, or it's not really serving our best interest, or it's allowing us to be deluded. I understand where that seed of negative thought comes from. So I think if we kind of bypass the idea that the only two choices in any road in life are positive thinking or negative thinking, if we think about it in terms of the thinking of possibility, then we can always be our true selves and we can always live authentically, because, you know, we always know that although we haven't pinned out every single hope on some abstract dream of future time when everything's going to be great, we know that if we try and if we forge forward and if we challenge ourselves and if we do one thing every day that scares us, then yes, it is possible to live the life that we want to live, and it is possible to mould our lives into the things that we want our lives to be. In tarot, there's a lot of talk about archetypes, and in the cards there are lots of archetypes. And Jung talks about how all of the archetypes are within us. You know, we have access to all of them, and they all reflect a part of ourselves which is there. And they link us into the collective unconscious. They're part of what makes us human. And everyone has certain archetypes that they relate to or employ more in their everyday lives. This is kind of how I see it. So some people may have a very, very strong link to their warrior archetype, for example. They might be very assertive people who push through their problems, you know, who kind of keep on in a very aggressive, like go-getting way. They don't take any prisoners, they want what they want, they have their eye on the goal and that kind of thing. They have their warrior archetype very much in the driver's seat. Other people have their magician archetype more in the driver's seat, you know. They're good at cunning, they're good at thinking about things in some kind of logical way that's going to get them where they want to go in a less assertive or competitive sense, but is still going to get them to their desired outcome. For some people, the hermit archetype is extremely strong, you know, rather than having that creative streak that the magician has, where they might kind of view things from what might be seen to be an obtuse angle, but they still get there because it's all about sleight of hand and it's all about using what you have to your advantage. The hermit archetype is about going deep within, you know, and finding the answers from within. And there may be a desire for solitude there, and there may be a desire to kind of explore the self in a very kind of deep sense, so that we get to the other side through a further and deeper knowledge of our own intuition, or through amassing knowledge of a certain kind of spiritual pathway or another. The mother archetype is there with a lot of people, or the lover archetype, you know, where it's all about caring and sharing and empathizing, understanding, being compassionate. That's how a lot of people get through their issues with other people on the planet, through empathizing, through realizing that they all have their own problems. You know, life is hard for everyone and they would like to see everybody else's point of view and such. I think that if you look at any person in your life who features in your life in any real way, you will see one archetype or another that is predominantly in the driver's seat, and then one or two other archetypes which kind of pop up and say hello during the course of the day. And I think it would be really interesting for me and for you guys, if you wanted to analyse and observe your own key archetypes, the archetypes that come up time and time again in your struggles, in the situations you encounter with other people, in the way that you perceive the world and your environment and your place within it. You know, there are those key archetypes that we turn to, that we lean on, that we can easily pluck out and work with. And then there are those archetypes that we really need to come to our aid. And those archetypes are hidden deeper down, and they can be more difficult to tap into. For some people, the archetype of the hermit or the sage might be quite difficult to tap into. For others, the archetype of the journeying hero might be quite difficult to tap into. You know, they may be overly concerned with stability and with obligation. They might want to feel safe within their material surroundings or within the confines of the status quo, and they may feel at one point or another in their lives that they really need to find that wandering hero within them, that traveller, that minstrel, that guy with just a bag of stuff on his back who just goes wherever his intuition takes him. Or you might find that the magician archetype is strong within you, that you're great with people and you're great with creativity and communication, but you may feel that your warrior archetype has to come out in a certain situation where you may feel cornered or manipulated, or as though you need to put your point across in a way that requires assertiveness, in a way that requires for you to be bold. And that warrior archetype, which is so difficult normally for you to tap into, needs to somehow find its way to the surface. So this can be difficult, and I think sometimes identifying those archetypes that we have a real issue getting in touch with can be the key to making ourselves more of a holistic presence in our own lives and the lives of the people that we encounter, because sometimes it's very easy to get stuck with one or two specific archetypes that we feel comfortable with, that we know well. We see those parts of those archetypes in ourselves, we see how we use the key attributes of those archetypes to deal with certain daily situations, but there may be those other archetypes deeper down that we really need to address and allow to come to the surface. And I've been thinking a lot in my shadow work recently about the archetypes that I feel kind of are lost within me, that I don't have a proper leash on them, I don't have ready access to them, I don't have a way to tap into them as fully as I would like to. And as a result of that, I don't feel that they can serve me, because I kind of don't have ready access to their phone numbers, if you like, in terms of the psyche. So yeah, the phone book has to be complete. You have to be able to get in touch with the archetype that you need at that moment, and sometimes that can be difficult. And I think one of the main ways to access your archetypes is to go back to past situations in your life where you felt you were backed into a corner, you felt that you weren't putting your full motivation behind something, those times where you really came out of your shell and you showed a part of yourself that was not expected, was highly unpredictable in terms of those around you who are not used to that side of you, but which was overtly positive and which got you where you needed to go at that time. And try and tap into that moment in your past where that archetype that was hidden deep within you came to the surface. You know, look at some of those past situations and experiences. For example, if you have a problem getting in touch with your warrior archetype and you find that you're really quite reserved or unable to assert yourself in a way that you feel may hurt others, you know, say if you're more of a lover and that kind of archetype is in the driver's seat a lot, you know, and you found that at some point or another in your life your compassion, your empathy for people, your willingness to listen and hear people out actually stopped you from being assertive in a way that you really needed to be. And remember, in that situation, what was it that made the warrior come out of you? What was it that helped you to stand your ground? You know, was it a realization of a part of your self-worth that you'd buried deep down and you didn't want to consider or think about, that just came bubbling to the surface and you thought, you know what, no, this is my limit, this is my boundary, you've overstepped my boundary, now I must act, you know, in my own interest? Or say if, for example, that wandering minstrel traveller kind of archetype, say if you were having a problem tapping into that archetype and as a result you were staying somewhere very undesirable, somewhere that was making you unhappy, and then one day that archetype just came out of you and you said, you know what, I am going travelling with that money, or I'm going to leave this job and go into the great unknown and not know what's coming, but you know, the stability isn't that important to me. The bottom line is I'm not happy and I have to take a risk. Try and hark back to that former experience and think about the emotions that had to come together, the ingredients that had to mix up in your psyche for that wandering minstrel traveller guy to just jump out and make you do what you did. And when you start connecting emotionally with those past situations where those hidden archetypes came out and did their work for you, then you will be able to find a pathway to get back to those archetypes again. And I think that's something that's really important. And another thing that I just wanted to say before I ended this particular video With regard to not leaving your power inside the circle, which is something I've been thinking of a lot lately, you know, where we put so much drive and so much energy, so much motivation into our spiritual pursuits, or into connecting with our gods and goddesses, or connecting with the universe, connecting with source energy, and channeling that source energy to do our will and also to feel more fulfilled and empowered as human beings. When we leave that energy in the circle and we don't allow it to permeate what we are and who we are and where we are outside of the circle, that can be very dangerous, because, you know, we're not only witches in the circle, we're witches in life. And I'm not just addressing witches here, but just for the point of argument, just, you know, for the analogy, I'm just talking about that one area of your life where, if you can imagine it as a circle, where you invest that power, you invest that energy. You need to take that energy and put it into a part of your life which is devoid of your personal energy, a part of your life that you ignore, that you procrastinate over, that you feel uncomfortable with, that you feel you're not in control of. Take that energy that you use in the circle, that encloses you and empowers you and gives you that spark of life, and fire that energy into that one aspect of your life that you really feel disempowered by, or that you really feel afraid of. And that's something that I need to learn to do. But I think a big part of that is learning that when you are a spiritual being, and when you are on a spiritual pathway, and when you are giving all of this energy to your spiritual learning, it's really important to remember not to expend your energy too quickly and too aggressively into things that really don't need your energy that much. And that's something that came up with a tarot reading that I did for a colleague of mine a few days ago. She is a Reiki master and she's very spiritual. She owns several tarot decks herself, and I've had some great conversations with this woman. And I did a tarot reading for her, and during the tarot reading, I told her that there were probably areas of her life where she needed to address the amount of energy that she was giving out to certain factors, certain situations, or certain people that really didn't require as much of her personal energy as she maybe thought they did, and that she should be preserving her energy. And I told her that while I was reading The Hollow Bone, The Field Guide to Shamanism, there's a part in that book where Colleen Dietzman talks about the importance of the shaman reserving their energy for the things that really matter, making sure that they have enough energy left over to nurture and care for themselves, so that when it does come to fulfilling the services for the community, or for helping people spiritually who've come to them for guidance, they have that energy there. They have not expended that energy in a way which was needless or unnecessary or unhealthy for them, you know, or wasn't helpful to them or the people they serve. And it was weird because she replied by saying that she actually is a shamanic Reiki healer, that she actually does things in a shamanic context, and that she has studied shamanism, and that's kind of how she does her energy work, in very much a shamanic setting. So this was actually really relevant to her, and I don't know if that was just like the witchy side of me coming out or what, but yeah, it really struck a chord with her, because she was herself a shamanic practitioner. And she said that she already knew that, you know, there were certain holes in her life where energy was pouring out, holes that needed to be plugged, you know. It's like an old boat that you kind of need to do some repairs on. If you notice that there are parts of your life where energy is spewing out into places that are just wasteful, energy is spewing out into a place that isn't helpful to you or to anybody else that you may wish to help, then you need to actually stop that energy from draining. You need to plug those holes. You need to repair your boat, because that boat is your way of deciding where best to distribute your energy. You carry your energy on that boat, and you stop from port to port, and you use your energy in association with the things that matter to you, with the things that speak to you at heart level, or with the people that you really feel need help and healing. So when you're losing that energy needlessly, you need to address where that energy is being lost and do something to kind of rectify that. And I think that's something that that's a lesson that I've come back to over and over again in my life, and it makes more sense every time I come back to it. And I don't necessarily think that having to learn a lesson over and over again in life is a failure to have learned the lesson completely in the first place. I more go with the idea that we change as we go through our lives, we evolve, we become different versions of ourselves. And if we really respect that, and if we really understand that, then we'll know that certain lessons will come back to us throughout our lives at different points, and they'll teach us something else, or they'll teach us something on a different level, or they'll make us think about things in a way we never thought about them before. You know, lessons of this nature are not just a one-time only thing. You know, they're not just one ticket. You get the lesson, but you get the lesson over and over again as you change and as new situations arise. So if you feel at this point in your life like there are holes in your boat that you need to patch up, that you need to repair, then do that, and don't feel bad about that, and don't feel that being empowered is in some way being selfish, and don't feel that rationing your energy and using it for good and using it only for the things that you truly believe in is selfish, because that's not selfish. That's actually being self-aware, and that's something that needs to happen, you know. Otherwise there's a lot of energy going into places and dissipating in a way that's going to make you feel very unfulfilled. So these are just thoughts I'm having, and I'm just really glad to be doing the YouTube thing again, and I'm about to make a video response with regard to how YouTube has helped me to grow, so I'm quite excited to do that as well. So yep, I will see you all again in a little while after that one is uploaded. Blessed be.